Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed his Minister of Defence, setting the stage for the biggest shake-up of the military since Russia's invasion. Mr. Zelensky said Oleksiy Reznikov has been through more than 550 days of full-scale war and new leadership is needed. Reznikov helped secure billions of dollars of Western military aid, but has been dogged by corruption allegations surrounding his ministry. The announcement came as one of Ukraine's top generals said the counter-offensive launched earlier this summer may be poised to gather pace. He says Ukrainian forces have punched through Russia's formidable first line of defences in the south and are pressing towards the second line. Let's get more on what's happening in Ukraine with our global affairs editor, John Lyons. Hi, John. So how significant is this breach of the defence lines, first of all?
Ros, it is important. They've broken through, they've claimed Robotyne now, and that is on the way down to Melitopol, which strategically, the importance of that is that when I was in Ukraine earlier this year, the Ukrainian army often talked about their desire to try to cut the Russian troops in half. So if they can make their way through to the sea, through Melitopol, then they cut the supply line in the lower part of the occupied territories. Then, if they can hit Crimea, if they can destroy the Kerch Bridge in Crimea, they essentially isolate thousands of Russian troops in that section. That's the strategy, and it looks like it's starting to happen.
So what's the ultimate goal in the south?
The ultimate goal is to starve of oxygen those Russian soldiers, because they can't then be supplied from Russia, from the mainland, because of the ocean. That will allow a pincer movement of the Ukrainian soldiers. Then I think they'll move hard onto Crimea. So we are seeing right now what many of us expected 2 months ago when the counteroffensive technically began. But what's been happening up until now, the reason it's gone so slow is the number of mines have been extraordinary. So the Ukrainians are going trench by trench. They've got separate teams doing each trench, and at night time they're using special heat technology which will show them where the metal mines are. They're then going in with like bulldozer type equipment with large rods in front of them, and they're exploding those mines. They've gone through the first wave, the first line of mines that the Russians have left, and they're now reaching the second wave. So they're making significant progress.
So Ukraine's defence minister has been stood down. Can you tell us a bit more about why he's gone?
That's right. Volodymyr Zelensky announced that he was replacing Defence Minister Reznikov. The suggestion is not that Reznikov himself was corrupt, but that there has been too much corruption in the Ministry of Defence. For example, things like flak jackets going missing and then resold at a premium by people. And Volodymyr Zelensky has a zero tolerance of corruption. He came to office, of course, before the war on a campaign of cutting out corruption. Before the war, one of the things Ukraine was most known for was its corrupt society. There was so much corruption there, as in Russia. And his view is, while we're at war, I will not tolerate any of it. It's been going on for too long. Reznikov has said, I'm trying to do something about it, but a lot of it smears. Zelensky is finally struck. So in a way, after 550 days of war, suddenly the general, the defence minister, who's actually done quite a good job holding the Russians at bay, is out the door.
Ukraine is heading into winter, of course. How is that going to affect both sides?
Well, two deadlines. I mean, the Russians are happy to dig in for the long haul because NATO, of course, said the moment the war's over, Ukraine can become a member. So Russia has an incentive, Putin, to keep this going for years. The Ukrainians have two deadlines. The first is the coming winter, so the next few weeks are critical to keep making this push to Melitopol and to try to hit Crimea. And secondly, the election next year in the US, the Ukrainians are very, very worried that Donald Trump might be re-elected.